use that. You could definitely use that.
Okay, are we good?
Yeah, you're good.
We're good? Okay. Hi. What's up, everybody? I'm Miranda from Marketing for the Uninhibited, and today my guest is Rachael from RKA Inc. Thank you for being here. Cheers.
Thank you for the wine.
Yes.
I came for the alcohol.
Everybody does. That's it.
Why I'm here. Yeah,
and the tacos.
And the taco. I got 2 steak tacos.
Welcome to Aurora.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Got a nice crisp white for all of you listening in on audio.
Yes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I do. I really do. Hey, I'm RKA. I'm Rachael Kay Albers. I run a branding, web design, and marketing studio. I'm also a business comedian and the host of Awkward Marketing.
What does that mean? Yeah.
I'm like the one-woman SNL of biz comedy, biz TV. Yeah. I like to say.
I think Big Stefan is one of my favorites so far. Like I watched that so many times, just the Stefan part. Like, how does she do that nasally voice?
If you want more of that, you got to go see the episode if websites were 80s dating videos, so you can meet Big Stefan. I'll give you a little behind the scenes about Big Stefan. Big Stefan is a family favorite because he is modeled after my Uncle Stefan.
Are you serious?
Yes. Who does kind of sound like that. Like, he doesn't look like Big Stefan character that I did in that episode, but yeah, he is. He talks a little bit like this, and he's a family fave. So I threw him in there to see. You know what though? Nobody made a comment. I think it might have been borderline offensive, but I'm glad you enjoy Big Stefan. So.
Wait, so nobody said anything? Does Uncle Stefan know that?
I don't think Uncle Stefan watches Awkward Marketing. In fact, Uncle Stefan, he's a pretty high-rolling businessman, and he works for a big corporation. He's pretty high up there. He makes good money. And we were talking about my business over Christmas, and he was like, "Why don't you make people pay for Awkward Marketing? Why do you give it to them for free? I think you should charge for each episode." I'm like, Uncle Stefan, it's brand awareness. It's top of the funnel.
Right.
This is not, no, you don't understand. But he doesn't get it.
No.
So, but no, nobody was like, wait a minute. That Stefan seems awfully familiar.
I feel like that would have been, in my family, like everyone would have received like an emergency message. Like, this is on the internet.
Maybe they
Someone's
did it.
making fun of you.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did. Uncle Stefan, actually, I do quite a bit of, I have a whole Snapchat filter dedicated to my Uncle Stefan.
Are you serious?
And he's not in on the joke. I don't know if he would find it. Yeah. So anyway, for all of you wondering about Big Stefan, check that out. If websites were 80s dating videos. And
Did you have to practice that for a while?
I mean, in general, it is something I've been crafting and honing over the years. It is one of my mainstays. It is just like my mom, like my mom character. She's a tried and true.
Well, yeah.
Big Stefan is another one of my,
What about the character that you took to your the Amy? What was that called? I don't even know.
Mastermind Live.
Yes.
Which was an event that I did last month, hosted by Sarah Christensen of Kick-Ass Masterminds. It was amazing. And yeah, I spoke there and I brought Brad the Braggy Bro.
Yeah.
Brad. Yes, he's also a classic. You'll be seeing more of Brad in the future.
God. How do you come up with these? Like, who was the inspiration for Brad other than?
I can't name names. If you check out Awkward Marketing and you go find my episode on Brad the Braggy Bro, you can draw your own conclusions. It's pretty obvious who my inspirations were for this character, but I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to diss anybody. But I like to say that, and this is actually what the speech that I gave, the keynote that I gave at this event, I like to say that my best content comes from the stuff that pisses me off.
Yeah.
So the stuff that makes me mad, and I like to say that's a signal. Like, if something's really irritating you about your industry, or you're finding something that's frustrating you, that's a signal that you've hit on one of your brand values. Like, this is something that I want to do things differently. I want my brand to show up X or Y way in the marketplace. And so if I see something I'm ranting to a friend, or I'm really irritated about something, I'm like, oh, that could be an episode of Awkward Marketing. That's a good. And then I take the negative energy around this thing that's aggravating me, or that's just like making me want to complain and whine, and I transform it into something that pushes me forward, as opposed to just being like whiny negative energy.
And continuing to talk about it without taking action.
Yeah.
Is that how Awkward Marketing started? Or was it like, I need to get something out there?
It was the latter.
Yeah.
Actually, no. So awkward marketing was not like a strategic thing. It was like I started a Facebook Live show. I did it every week. And
oh, yeah, that's right.
I had bought the domain. I had bought awkwardmarketing.com like years ago. And I was like, I don't know. I just thought, I don't know what I thought I was going to do with it. I had actually pitched the idea to a couple people that wanted to do maybe a podcast with me. I'm like, well, we could do something called awkward marketing. And they were like,
Not.
And for a while, I was like, getting this feedback, you don't want to call the show awkward marketing because people don't want to be awkward in their marketing, right? But then when I did this Facebook Live show, there would be days where like I'd be like, what? I'd say something weird or like something would come out wrong and I'd be like, what? Awkward marketing. And then I started saying, oh, you can't spell awkward without RKA, which is
there you go.
Which you can't spell awkward without RKA. And then I just decided, hey, I got this domain. It's like, here it is. This is what it was always meant to be, awkward marketing. But then I did a couple special episodes. I did a live musical special. And then I did a Halloween special where I did the top five awkward marketers. That's when I got the green screen. That's when I started doing the characters. And I had Guy the Guilt Tripper. I had Curry the Copycat, Brad the Braggy Bro, Gigi the Girlypreneur, and Cassandra the Cultural Appropriator. Those were my top five awkward marketers. And it had such good reception that I was like, oh, wait, no, this is the show now. Right. This is what the show's going to become. I'm going to go off of Facebook Live. I'm going to make this a real thing. And that's how awkward marketing was born. But yes, like the way that awkward marketing is today and is going forward, it's all about like the stuff that people are doing wrong in their marketing, the stuff that people hate, the sleazy stuff. It's all of that is the inspiration. But instead of just dwelling on like, oh, like you don't want to be a jerk, like I turn it into a teachable, here's how you can move forward with your marketing and do something that really matters and in integrity. And so, that is that.
And now, how long have you had this show? Since even the inception, like on Facebook
2 years.
Live?
Yeah.
2 years.
2 years.
And how long have you been back in the U.S.?
I moved back to the U.S. end of 2016. So it was right after that.
Oh. Yeah. Wow. I do think that all marketing at first is awkward. Like anytime you're doing something new, and even just now with like our introduction, talking about the introduction, I mean, this shit has been awkward the whole time. Like it's just weird until you figure it out. And then you're like, oh, okay, but that could be 100 episodes in.
And even then, I mean, I think especially for most of my clients are small business owners, really small teams, maybe 5 to 10 people. And so when you are marketing your own company, it just feels awkward for most people. People who are not marketers feel uncomfortable doing their own marketing. Right. So awkward marketing kind of refers to, one, all of the like awkward, awful, crappy marketing that's out there in the world. But then, yes, as you just said, you just correctly pointed out, it also refers to the feeling that people have marketing themselves. And I think, I don't know if it completely goes away because you're always pushing yourself and marketing is evolving and changing all the time and we have to try new things and that always feels awkward. So
do you ever have so you came up with that idea, but have you ever tested ideas that were not yours that you were like, this is probably not for me?
Sure. Yeah, of course. All the time. I mean, okay, so back in the day when I first started my business, I used to, anytime I was in a real place of like desperation, I needed to make a quick buck and I would try different like sales. I would be like, hey, I did 1 year, I don't know what I was thinking. I did a name your own price sale for a website. Like what was I thinking? I was like, name your own price. Like, and by the way, nobody bit that. And I'm really glad. I'm sure because they're like, we don't trust you with this. And I've just done some kind of promos and like quick, make a buck type things over the years. And every time I did that, it did not work. Right. I did not make any money. I didn't feel an integrity. I didn't know how to really push it out there. And it's never been the way whenever I'm in that place of desperation. So that for sure. And I'll tell you what, speaking of awkward marketing and speaking of like not doing your own, when I first started out, there was all this like pressure. You have to have a blog. You have to create content.
Yes. Well, the content thing, like over and over and over.
And I did not know I have nothing to say. I didn't want to write blogs about like how do you design a logo, like how do you make a word. Yeah. I didn't want to do that. I didn't have any high level observations about my industry, or I was very much a new beginner all of the big guys like, you know, for example, Amy Porterfield, Marie Forleo, Tim Ferriss, all these people were just at the beginning of their rise to the top.
Right.
And so so what did I create? My first blog was, I called it Awesomepreneur. It was my first business blog, and the tagline was work with heart. Oh. And it was all about, because like it was like tied into my brand, because I was RKA Inc. web design with heart. And then I also had a blog for living in Latin America, because I lived in Mexico for years, and it was living with heart. It was RKA in LA, RKA in Latin America, and so it was living with heart. Right. So everything had heart in it.
Is that how you sign your emails too now?
I still say with heart. It's like the only vestige of the past. It's the only thing.
But the rest is gone.
Everything else is gone. But so I wrote all this content about working with heart. And what does that even mean? It's meaningless. I mean, it's not meaningless. I feel bad. But I wrote this whole blog and created this whole digital magazine. I had a digital magazine for a little while. And it was because I didn't feel strong enough in my expertise industry-wise. Right. I felt like this was a way I could create content on sort of like a fluffy topic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had guest bloggers come in. I did interviews. It was a great experience, but it wasn't me. It was very much like me trying to be something that I wasn't, and also trying to create content when I really had nothing to say about anything. And so I was like, how do you like infuse your business with love? Oh my God.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
But how did you know that? How did you know that it wasn't for you? It just didn't feel right?
In my heart, no, I knew it was in my heart. But it just...
Like when you know, you know.
It was just it didn't excite me.
Right.
It didn't thrill me. It was, but here's the thing though. I think it's not, if it wouldn't have been possible for me to come up with the concept of awkward marketing at that time. Because now, so awkward marketing is my main vehicle of visibility and content that I'm creating. But it was like a right place, right time type of a thing. Because the access we have to tools to create high level video production today versus 10 years ago when I started my business, my level of industry knowledge and kind of the observations I have. Now today I feel like, oh gosh, it's all come together. Like I've got a background in theater and comedy. And then my marketing expertise, and like I'm saying something, but I couldn't have started there. So it was almost like sometimes you have to go through, there's no way, here's what I'm going to say. A lot of my clients and a lot of people I see brandcrastinate. They're always trying to find the perfect thing. So they're like, is this the perfect thing? Is that the perfect thing? Is this it? Is this it? And then they never actually do it. They never actually try.
And stick with it. Because doing it one time doesn't count. Right,
exactly. So they're trying to find, they're like, okay, what's the thing that is my thing, the big thing, the great thing, the
it's
me
gonna
thing.
Make me make it.
And you don't know. You don't know until you do it. And as you said, you do it consistently and you try it, and sometimes you're going to do things and it's not going to be the ultimate thing. And you have to be okay with that. Like you have to surrender to like, it's all right if this thing that I'm doing isn't going to be like the be all end all of my business or of my content or of my strategy or whatever. So it was only through the wrong path that I could get to the right one.
But how did you know when to pull the plug on your blogazine magazine?
It kind of naturally came to, in that case, I think it kind of came to an end. It became too much work with absolutely no, it wasn't making me any money. And so I had to get really honest with myself about where I'm putting my time and where my profits lie and that kind of thing. And I'll tell you what, so the pulling the plug on that digital magazine came around the same time that I pulled the plug on my web design with heart tagline in general.
Oh, really? So it all kind of...
And I had a client that was like walking all over me and treating me like crap. And she was like, and I was setting limits with her and I'm like, no, we can't do, here's the contract. These are the terms. We have to stay within this. And she was like, I thought that you were with heart. I thought that you had a heart. And that was her way of saying, I thought you would let me walk all over you and you would never put a boundary up. And that's when I realized, this heart thing is not serving me. Not only does it not really truly feel like me, it felt like kind of just like one tiny version of me that I I had like all these things I was trying to prove to the world. Like, I'm a good person. Look at me, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think in the beginning you do, because you feel like you don't have a lot to say in your industry if you're a beginner, and then you're like insecure about things. And so that's, I mean,
all this, and then it's like daddy issues, etc.
Well, we all have those. Line them up, girl.
Right?
That's for the After Hours podcast.
Oh my gosh. So, and then this woman, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like, I'm done. I'm getting web design with heart out of it. It felt very small time at that point. It felt like I was limiting myself. And so then it was like, gone, girl. You're out.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
But I feel like a lot of people don't pull the plug because they put in so much time and they put in that effort, and they are like so sad to see it go that they can't. And they don't realize that that is what's holding them back the whole time. Like, it's never going to work. Move on.
I know.
And
it's painful.
It's hard to explain that to someone. Like, yes, go ahead and put all that you've got into this for the next 6 months. But if it doesn't work, we're just going to leave it.
Yeah, that is hard to understand. I think, especially if you're not a marketer or you're not, I know that's what you do with your clients. You create marketing strategies. You help them get their business in front of more people. People want to come to a marketing strategist or a web designer or a branding person, a copywriter, and they want you to give them like this magic key.
One magic. They want this.
Right.
They want next month my business to be back up in the green.
And, what's funny is on the way here to record this podcast, I was listening to another podcast called Household Name.
Ooh.
And it's really great. It's all about how these kind of big brands became big brands. And so the episode I was listening to was all about the pumpkin spice latte and how it became like the emblem of basic bees, if you will, right? And the guy who made it, basically, they've got a little lab, they've got a Starbucks lab, and they just go in there and they just mess around with coffee and different tastes. And they literally were just like mixing together pumpkin pie and espresso and like just seeing how to create the perfect and like they realized I think it was among many things they were mixing espresso with, but I mean, they have a lab that they're constantly testing new flavors. They're constantly seeing what's going to work, what doesn't work. Then they roll it out in a few stores. They see how that goes. They roll it out in more stores. They see how that goes. And there are, I mean, if you remember, speaking of Starbucks, there was that whole unicorn frappuccino or whatever.
Yeah, and then there was like a million other weird ones.
Yeah, and it's like it got a ton of blowback, and people like, oh my gosh, there's a 7,000 grams of sugar in this. And it's like, but if you don't have the unicorn frappuccino, which was a fail, in my opinion, I don't know actually the numbers, but then you also don't have the PSL.
Exactly.
That's how you get the PSL, is by messing around. And I don't think people realize that, it is experimentation. Now, you're experimenting from a strategic place.
Right.
You're not just literally like throwing spaghetti at the wall, i.e. or the coffee cup. You're not throwing marinara into a coffee cup.
And you don't like put every single idea out there either. You got to talk to somebody about it first.
But marketing is very much like testing theories. It really is.
Over and over.
Yeah, and then, you test 10 theories and 4, I mean, even that is a lot, but like one works, one goes. And so.
And you have to do it, I feel like you almost have to test faster because so many, like we were saying, pulling the plug. But that made me think of Sam Adams Brewery. Have you ever been to Boston? But not to the brewery.
Exactly.
I got you.
I had a mouthful of wine for all you people on audio.
Oh, we should have brought the bottle over here. Marshall, can you bring us the bottle?
Bring that bottle over here. Wine break. This should be like a regular kind of commercial break.
Can we just cut that and I'll just insert it in everyone?
Wine break. Da, 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 da. And you should get yourself sponsored by like.
I want a whiskey sponsor.
Why aren't we? Is there whiskey too? Are we gonna do that?
Yeah. What? Well, now that I said that, and I don't even have the whiskey here. Damn it! Damn you, Whiskey Acres!
You really need to get yourself a wine sponsor. I'm saying that right now, and you're not cutting this from the podcast.
Okay.
You're going to get that wine sponsor. And
if I could get a wine and a whiskey sponsor.
I like that. Manifest.
Yes.
Go big or go.
There.
Yes. We're putting our attention into the universe.
I'm on this committee. So there's a local abused women and children shelter here in Aurora. And I'm on their gala committee this year. They're going to do a wine and whiskey poll. Wine and whiskey. So you can pay $30 and you can pull. You pick the end you want. I'm like, yeah, this is my type of
What is a
event.
pull? Wait a minute. Hold on. Educate me. A pull?
Okay, yeah. So it's just a charity event thing. So
Right.
basically, you give $25 to the person standing there, and you get to pick a bottle of wine. And it could be, the bottles of wine usually range in price from like $9 to $100.
I'm into that.
So you could win or you could not.
I mean, you're still winning because you get wine.
You get wine. But
exactly.
we want to try it with whiskey. So we're going to work on that.
How about that?
Wouldn't that be? I'd rather pull whiskey than wine. I can go buy wine.
Maybe you can go buy whiskey too.
Yeah, but it's more fun to win a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah,
and
it's
go
true.
home with that. Shit.
It's true. There's lots of cool whiskeys out there. All right.
Yeah.
From our lips to God's ears, we're going to get you a wine and whiskey sponsor.
Yes,
How
this is it.
about
This is
that?
Oh, well, okay. I'll wrap back to Sam Adams real quick.
Yeah.
Their testing facility is in their original like brew house now. So they have their distribution center is in Cincinnati, but so now where they originally started making it, like their craft brewery, is the testing facility. I
love it.
That like 10 times.
I love it. It's like how the original the original McDonald's is now like a museum. Actually, that's totally not the same thing. But
Kind of, because it is a museum. You get a tour.
You don't get to test hamburgers though.
No,
So-
but it's beer. I don't know. I'd rather have beer.
I would definitely rather have beer.
Yeah.
But afterwards, you're like, I need McDonald's, you know,
Right.
depending on how much you have. So, yeah, but it's all about, you got to test, you got to experiment. And I think, here's the thing, is that people will brandcrastinate around as long as there are no stakes. And so in my case, what was like a blessing and a curse, or a blessing, but was that right around the time that my business really started to scale up, I got married. I became the breadwinner, like in my family. You know, now these days I've got a daughter, I've got a little baby.
Wait, can we talk about that breadwinner part?
Yeah, sure.
I've never asked you like how that came to be. I just assumed your career took over.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I mean, so my husband is from Mexico, and it's a totally different economic situation down there. His background and his resume is such that he would only be able to make a certain amount of money for the rest of his life, right? And not for the rest of his life, but like the amount of money that he was making compared to the amount of money that my business was making, it was just so different. It made more sense. Like when we decided that I was going to be the sole earner, it was so that, you know, he could focus on taking care of the house, taking care of helping me, kind of being my assistant and doing some tasks within the business. Now that we have a baby, he is the stay-at-home dad. He is taking care of, I mean, I don't even know where the toaster is in my kitchen. I mean, I am for real when
And
I say
I know
that.
that's true because I'm not the 1st time I've heard that.
You've been to my house, and I'm like, where's
Your
the?
house.
I don't understand. He had a part-time job last year when I was pregnant, and I would call him and be like, where's the frying pans?
Oh my God.
So he really does a great job of taking care of the home, but that was really it. It was that it just didn't make as much economic sense as him kind of being able to keep everything on the house side running so that I could focus all of my attention on the business. And what that did was it created stakes for me. And now those stakes, I mean, they're just higher and higher every day.
And they're gonna only
get higher.
Okay, you can drink wine now.
Yeah. Hold on. Pardon me. You got any whiskey? All right. Sponsor.
Yes.
So, but it keeps you forcing to iterate. You have to make tough decisions faster. You have to say, is this profitable? Is this not? It's not a hobby. This isn't like, I do think that there's a difference in the energy of a business when there is pressure on it.
Yes.
And at the same time, the grass is always greener, because I look at people who are running businesses and they've got a little bit of economic support, you know, and it's like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to spend this year like slowly scaling and just, you know, I would love to luxuriate in a pivot for my business.
God.
And I don't have that luxury, you know.
No, you don't. And I think you need to have the skin in the game, otherwise you never take it that seriously.
Right, you're not making decisions, and that's what keeps you being like, well, maybe I'll just.
Yeah.
No. You got to do it or you don't. You do it or you don't.
Right, because all the clients I have, they either are trying to, if they have like income from some other revenue stream that they're comfortable with and they like, that they don't hate, like they need to leave their job tomorrow, then they move so much slower. But then there are the ones that you talk to and they're like, no, like I have to quit my job. I don't want to do this anymore. And they're willing to take the risks. And when you think about the risks that we're talking about, it's not like, I mean, I'm asking you to put your face on social media.
Right.
Or like, you know, put your Instagram story on for 10 seconds.
Right.
I'm not asking you to jump off, like go bungee jumping or something crazy.
Well, that would be great for your numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be wonderful.
I mean, if you put it on
engagement.
Instagram stories, then make sure you tag everybody.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And people just move faster when there's a fire under their butt. And so that's, I mean, this is a different thing, but you know, one company that's super brilliant is the diet. Have you heard about Diet Bets? Diet Bets. It's basically, I don't know if that's the name of the company. I think it is. But basically, it is a company that you go in and you will pay them like $100 or $20 or whatever. You'll bet on yourself.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And it's like you're giving them $50. And if I lose 10 pounds by March, then I will get my $50 back. But if I don't know how they prove it. I've never done a diet bet, but I think it's brilliant. I think about it all the time.
Because you have to have skin in the game.
But that's what's so brilliant about it. And so I think it's the same type of a thing. That's why when people make investments in their business, when they invest in coaching or they invest in a mastermind, they invest in a website, they invest in a marketing strategist, all these things, it does either it accelerates their success or it accelerates their failure.
And you know? From the flip side, when you think about your pricing in that way and you want it to be an investment for the person on the other side so that they take it seriously.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they're like, meh, like $300, it's whatever. Like if I don't use this, I don't need to move forward with it. But then they don't necessarily take you seriously. Because if you, and this is hard to figure out in the beginning. Yeah. If you don't take yourself seriously, which sometimes you may not feel like you know shit, but you got to go out there and sell it. So, I mean, and honestly, I don't think well, maybe there are people out there that really don't know shit and like are trying to sell their services. I don't know. Yes,
there are, but yeah, sure.
Okay, forget those people. But don't be that person. However, you need to like just be confident in your skills. And like you had a great call today. That's always nice to have that client feedback to reinforce what it is you're doing. And you've been doing this for 10 years and you still need that.
Oh, I do.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I have an episode of Awkward Marketing about this. That's like people will treat you like people will treat you the way that you show up.
Exactly.
So if you show up as an expert and as competent, then people are going to treat you that way.
Right.
And yes, I think it's a good point. It's not just about showing up and being like, I know things, but it is, how are you pricing yourself? Mm-hmm. It is, how are you positioning yourself in the marketplace? What does your brand look like? What does your website look like? I talk a lot about, I was having this conversation just the other day with Mike Ganino, who is a keynote speaker. He is a storytelling coach, a brand storyteller. He's amazing. And he was talking about if you want to get on those bigger stages, like if you want to be a keynote speaker and you want to be commanding $10,000, $15,000 for a speech, well, what does your website look like? Or what does your brand look like? How are you showing up in the world? Are you showing up like a $10,000 speaker?
Exactly.
And if you are, that really does lubricate the wheels for you to reach those goals. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that, okay, so we're talking about pricing, we're talking about kind of leading clients. You really do have to kind of show up and putting some skin in the game, making it an investment. That's a huge way to kind of hold yourself accountable.
It is. And I go back and forth between like, okay, being confident and taking myself seriously and then having to be like, you can calm down now. Like, it's not that serious, you know? Like with the testing thing, you can't hold on to everything that tightly and take it that seriously. You can still take yourself seriously and your pricing seriously and your business. But with testing and marketing, and that's where I get frustrated with people in marketing. Because they're always like, do you ever have people approach you and they're like, oh, okay, well, how would you fix my company? Like, you're in marketing. Yes,
of course.
I was a maid of honor in a wedding, and the makeup hairstylist was like, oh, yeah, or the makeup artist was like, yeah, like, I need help with my, I'm like, oh, but I'm like 3 glasses of champagne in, and I'm a maid of honor, so, like, I'd like to just relax.
I mean, yes, that happens to me all the time. And people are like, how would you, can you just come in here and like tweak this up?
Right.
And that would be segue, but that would be the case for having a signature system. Speaking of positioning yourself as an expert, showing up as an expert so that people can treat you that way, having a signature system and a process that you take people through is the answer to that question. So when people come up to me and they're like, oh, I've got a friend who needs a website. How much do you cost? I can easily, first of all, I just know by that question, I'm like, nope. They're not for me. I'm going to refer you out.
Yes.
But I will say, what we specialize in is taking brands from 0 to 60, and we're going to do this through this framework, this process. And that answers the question of like, what would I do for your business? Well, first I would do a strategy call where we would da-da-da-da, and then I would do a strategic planning process, and then I would do 6 months of blank, and then I would do review,
Yeah.
That's what I would do, because that's what, and so that is a really good answer to those types of questions.
Yeah, that's good.
It's like, I've got this process, I've got this system, and processes and systems make people feel taken care of. It makes them feel safe.
Yeah.
Versus, like, if you're a service provider, if you offer one-on-one consulting, creative services, having a system you can put people in immediately makes them feel better about spending their money with you.
Yes, because it's organized.
Right.
And then they trust the process.
Right.
And they trust, and they trust
you and what you're saying, and as opposed to just like, I'm giving you my money and like, what's happening next? They don't. So I think it just giving them years ago before, right now I've got a really, really structured process that I take people through when I work with them.
I've been through it.
And yes, you have. And I had a client before this was ever created, like back when it was like really, like a bunch of Google forms or something, before there was even Google forms.
Which is like, that's okay to start there too. You got to figure your shit out before you can like build it out the way you have
exactly.
into a dashboard.
Exactly. I'm not dissing on Google forms, but I had these forms. And I had a client being like, wow, everything is so organized. Everything is so streamlined. I feel so taken care of. And that was a ding, ding, ding moment for me where I was like, oh, I need more of this.
Yes.
I need to take this to the next level. So I kind of streamlined that over the next few years. And then it became what you've experienced through my course and I take my clients through. But yeah, like that feeling of being held will really make a client feel really good about spending their money with you. It'll make them, so for me and for you, you're offering people creative solutions. And if you're doing that at a budget price and in a willy-nilly way with no structure, you're going to give them your solution. They're going to be like, they're going to take it and be like, I don't know. And then they're going to like micromanage it. They're going to be like, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And for me, I'm a designer. I also create strategies for people. So when I hand over a design, I used to have clients being like, my uncle like once designed something for his church group and he thinks this should be in this font.
Right.
And so I used to let that happen to me. But now by creating this structure and this system and kind of positioning myself as I am leading this process, my client is not leading this process. It affects the feedback they give to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, and I keep the feedback really streamlined so that and actually it's so funny. It's like, so now I've got a kid, I've got a baby.
So it's like
and
parenting.
They say that like kids love structure. They need structure.
Oh, they do.
Need limits.
Yeah.
They're looking to you as the parent to create this like safe space. And like when they're testing the boundaries, they want you to say no in a way, right?
Yeah,
There's a healthy way to do that. There's a non-healthy way. But that's the same thing with clients. You need that structure, and the client actually, it helps them be their best.
If you hold them to the standard, if there is a standard to uphold, and then you're helping them to get there, which is what you're doing in these situations, or with parenting too, like you're giving them the opportunity to show up for themselves, because you, like the webinar, I would have gotten nothing out of that had I not shown up and like done the homework. And there were some things that I didn't do, and then I was like having to go back and do. I'm like, why didn't I do it the first time? Like, why did I wait till now? And that's a hard thing too, because then it is like parenting sometimes, and it's like, what? You had homework to do and you didn't do it, and now look at you now.
Look at you now.
Damn it.
Damn it.
You can't yell at Alice yet. She's
no, I can't. No, she's a baby. You can't yell at babies. No yelling at babies. Not yet. But yeah, I mean, it's And also, by taking a leadership role with your clients, you allow them to focus on what they do best. So for me, my client is not best served by becoming a designer in our process, right?
Yeah.
They need to trust me and let me be the expert designer. And they need to be the expert of their business. And so when I keep a really strong structure and I keep a leadership role in the relationship, as much as like some type of client might chafe and be like, oh, wait a minute, I'm used to being the big dog around here. And in my house, it's like people are paying me, but then you're coming into my house. These are my rules.
Yeah.
And yet that allows otherwise the client is spending all of their time. They're in my case, I find that people use the micromanagement of the process as a way to distract from the things they don't want to be doing in their own business. And they're scared about the rebrand, or they're scared about launching this new site. They don't want to have to do X, Y, or Z. And so by taking that leadership role, I am kind of like turning them right around and being like, no. Your job is not to, freak out about what shade of yellow I'm using in this button. Your job is to do your thing and let me do my thing. Yeah,
exactly. Because when you don't do that, what happens is if they're dissatisfied, it's all your fault, but it's really truly because they didn't do the work. Yeah. But then it's always your fault because they're paying you. And so that's like, you have to hold... It's always your fault, Rachel. Jeez. But that's where it's like, if it's not structured, because I've struggled with this too, where like it's one-off work and then they're like, oh, well, that didn't really work for me. And I'm like, but you didn't do what I said, but I also didn't structure it in a way that they had to show up for those things. So when you launch your webinar, because we did the beta test.
The course.
Were you scared?
Yeah.
Like it took you a long time to actually press launch on
I have had my course, like most of the content, like I'd say 70% of the content was done for years. And it was like, okay, I'm going to launch it in May. Wait, I'm going to launch it in September. Wait, I'm going to launch it in January. And I did that dance for almost 2 years where I was like, I'm going to launch and going to launch and going to launch and going to launch. And finally, I have a peer-led mastermind group and they were like, girl, you're going to launch in November.
That's it.
And because I was like, I'm going to launch in the new year. No, you're going to launch now. This was like 2 weeks out. They're like, you're going to launch now. I'm like, I'm not ready. It's not done. It's not perfect. And yeah, I had never done my own launch. I had launched for clients, but I'd never done my own launch. I'd never done webinars. I'd never done my own funnel like that. I'd done other funnels, but I had never, And it's so funny because it's like you always find out like that the answers were inside me all along.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So who did you look to? Was there someone you were emulating, like someone's processes that you were like, okay, that worked for her, so let me put this into place? Or did you just go with what you thought was the right move?
Well, I have written launch plans for different clients and different types of business models. So I really just cobbled together. I did a combination of what I had at hand. So it was like, okay, I had a tight timeline. So I had to put together the strategies that I knew I could implement in less than 2 weeks. Do you know what I'm saying? So
what's your process in that situation? Do you write it, or are you just like thinking about it? Is it like Google
I created kind of an overnight.
Okay.
Thank you. You were so generous. She just filled up my cup and not even her own. I feel like you're fine. Yeah,
I
you're
have
good.
Another bottle. I know us. I'm like, got 2 in the bag for this one.
So yeah, I do create kind of I created a loose plan, and I will say, yes, I study launches. So I wrote a recent article lately about B School. Right now, as we record this, B School launch is going on. Marie Forleo is doing this is her 10th year, by the way. So it's like,
that is
so
really crazy.
synchronous.
You've all kind of grown up together.
Yeah, even though she's like my big sister, and I'm like, I was an infant and she was a teen.
She was already off in college.
Yeah, she was. I mean,
you're like, hey. That was my sister was in 2nd grade when I was in my freshman year, and she called me. They moved. This is total tangent, but they moved me down. Like my parents let me drive them down one day. My sisters, so they saw my apartment. I drove them back home, and then I moved there. And the 2nd grader called me, and she was like, "So have you had any parties in there yet?" Like, come again?
That is it sounds really familiar to my relationship with Marie Forleo. I call her, I'm like, girl, what's up? You having any parties or what? But yeah, no, so I wrote an article about B School. I love that story. I love it. And that's funny because I was 14 when my youngest sister was born. So
exactly.
Very similar. But yeah, no, I wrote this article about the B School launch and kind of observing it. And there's a lot of people speaking of like negative energy and whiny, complaining energy. Every time there's a launch of anything, people love to just bitch about it. And so B School is a really popular one because it's been going on for 10 years and there's all these affiliates that promote B School. And yeah, if you follow those affiliates, you're going to get a ton of marketing.
You're bombarded.
Yeah, you are. And you can choose to be like, I'm so annoyed. Or, which is like, dude, just unsubscribe. It's one click. I mean, how hard is it? Or you could observe this launch, especially if your business is not as mature as the people who are doing the affiliate marketing or Marie, and you could learn from it, right?
I think, yeah, because everything you said in that blog post was like on point because I'd just been putting them, well, I was deleting some of them, but then when I read yours,
me too.
Then I was like, oh no, she's right.
Create a filter, put it in a folder, and then when you are ready to launch, go to that folder and look at the mechanics of these launch emails. So I have been studying launches for years, all like bad launches, good launches, launches of different types of things. So my strategies are the same strategies that I use with my clients. I'm going to use certain tactics that are going to work with your personality and your audience. But I'll be honest with you, when I did my launch, it was like, okay, what can I do in the time that I have? I couldn't create elaborate, I couldn't create like sequences for this guy or this guy or this guy. I had to create one nurture sequence. I had to create one webinar. I had to create one sales page and that was it. It wasn't like I could create, variations.
You didn't have time.
Yeah.
Again.
I had like a few ads that I ran. That was it, and I had to kind of use, absolutely, it was a theory, it was a test, and I had to be okay with that. Yeah. Like, this is not going to be this is this is a beta launch. Right. Of hopefully many, and I had to be okay. And it was, speaking of, there was skin in the game, but then there was also, the timeline was good because it forced me to just go and do it.
I think that's a big one. You have to give yourself, because if you give I'm going to give myself 6 months.
Well, that's what I did, and I never launched.
Right.
So then it was like, you're doing it, girl, in 2 weeks, and then I did it. And it was funny, and what's great about it was after I did the launch, people were like, wait a minute, this was you cobbling it together. Yeah.
This was your beta test.
My half-ass launch. I just kind of launched, and they were like, what? And that helped to make me feel like, okay, you know what? And I think that's the story for most business owners. We go out there, we try something, we're like, I look pathetic. And then other people are like, damn girl, that looked amazing.
If that's your half-ass,
right,
then, because, and you know what, I don't think you do things half-ass, but I think if you did, everyone would know. If you truly, truly, truly did it half-assed.
But that was half-assed.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. You had a dashboard. You had all these things.
No, I guess you're right.
It's not half-assed. Listen, I've done Seth Godin's marketing seminar.
Yeah.
And it, first of all, it's just not, he's a very simple man. It was black and white, okay? He's very intelligent, but the color scheme was black and white. Yours was just like your brand, your logo, everything colorful, but then it was way more just intricate, in terms of, and his is meant to be 100% self-guided and led by the community. Yeah. So there are different structures there. However, the number of people that I've talked to, even in there, that wanted more structure, like we were talking about with parenting, because it's overwhelming. That community is so huge that it either needs to be divided into smaller sub-communities so you can actually interact. And he gives you tips for how, find your friends, tag 5 people, comment on 5. But still, there are so many people in there that if you get behind and your friends leave you, and you don't comment.
It's a daily thing, right?
It's daily. I had no idea that it was going to be daily. Maybe I missed that part of it. I saw like sign up now and it'll be cheaper. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I'll try it. And I did. And I'm happy I did because it got me to a good place. But then I could no longer sustain it because I was working weddings on the weekends. I was working 6 days a week and then trying to do homework every single day. And it's not like one, it was in-depth homework. It make your brain hurt sometimes thinking about these things in your business. And then all of a sudden you're like reconsidering your whole life and your whole business. Like maybe I just shouldn't be here. Like, let me check
It's an interesting approach because actually I haven't done that. I haven't done Seth's school, so I don't know about it. But it's interesting. It's almost like, okay, I was talking to my client last night and it's a startup in Australia and they've got this brilliant idea. I mean, they're going to take the market by storm. But she was comparing herself to Marie. She was like, oh, well, what about Marie Forleo does this on her website and that on her website. And she does this, this, and this. And she was wonderful because she really took my leadership graciously. But I was like, well, here's the thing about Marie. If Marie Forleo were to start from scratch today, she wouldn't have the website she has today. She has earned that website. Yes. And I mean that in the sense of like, she doesn't have to work as hard in terms of explaining what she does. She doesn't have to be as like clear and explicit in her copy. People go to her website and they already know.
They know who she is.
Yeah, exactly.
They know her brand.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that's the thing with Seth is like, he has earned the right to be able to take his genius and be like, bleh, like here is all of my brilliance. Deal with it. Right. And this is and you're paying for that. But if a brand new course creator were to take his seminar and use it as the guide for their course, that would be a disaster. Yeah. That would be. So I think that's really important. It's like, okay, so Seth has earned the right to be able to just like vomit value on you to the point where you're like, I don't know who I am anymore.
Is that the title of this? Vomit value.
But I mean,
and that's true, and I think people forget that. So, like, when you look at Amy Porterfield or Seth Godin or any one of them, they're not, like, if you look at Square One, my favorite is Joe Rogan's first podcast episode, because he's done 1,500 podcasts now. His first ever podcast episode, we watched it the other night. They're like snowflakes falling down. They're playing with the graphics. He literally picks his nose on video because he's like, I don't know, is anyone like, oh, you guys don't like the snowflakes? Like, he's like, it's him and his friend, and they're just high as hell, and they're just messing around. And then even when they get to like episode 200, it's still his same comedian friends. Yeah. And it's not until, this month probably has been his biggest month. He's got like Travis Barker. He's got all of these. He's got the greats now. Like he's has established himself after 10 years as a great, and now everyone else is gravitating towards him. And that's, he had Elon Musk on. Like, you don't just get Elon Musk.
Was that the episode where Elon Musk talked about smoking pot, or actually smoked pot? He smoked pot. Oh, my people were freaking out.
His stock dropped. In Tesla.
Everybody's stock drops, okay?
No, but it was immediate. The next day.
But then it went back up, right?
Yeah. That's what it went higher.
I know a lot about stocks, and what I know is when things happen in the news, it drops, but then they go back up a lot of the time. But I don't know. Soon we're about to go into a recession, and that's what I've heard. Okay?
You heard it here
first. You heard it here first. We're going into a recession. I'm nervous. I'm scared.
What does that mean for small business owners?
This is the very little I know. What I know is that first of all, you should follow Kristen Fox. Kristen Fox is an amazing glass ceiling breaking stock exchange.
Oh, really?
Badass. She started the Brazen Network. She is a big deal. But so follow her because she actually knows about this stuff. But what I know is, okay, you're going to have to position your business around the thing that people need and that they can't live without. Yeah. And so for me, when I look at my business model, like our existing business is going to still need marketing and design and branding. Yes. Could my DIY services suffer during a recession? Yes, because people will have less disposable income to want to start a new business.
Right.
Versus an existing business still has to market, because if they don't market, they're going to be screwed. You know, so that's the best thing I can say about how to.
It's scary to think about, but
Yeah.
I think, that's all you can do is just, I don't know. People, they just don't listen to their audience enough, I think, at the end of the day. It's like, you go out there with a business and you want to, like, vomit value on them, but you're not Seth Godin yet, so you can't just, like, force this product on them. You actually have to listen to their opinions and their feelings and see what's working. And if you actually listen to what Seth Godin says or have read his books, that's what he's telling you to do. But he can do it at a much faster rate and a higher cost.
At this point, he has earned the right to be able to create a community that may or may not truly be the best incubator for results, right? I mean, I haven't done his program, so I can't speak to it. But based on what you've said in this moment, it's like, is this the best structure for the biggest results? Probably not. That said, it's an affordable way to get advice from Seth Godin, right? On a higher level, right? So, I mean, in that way, it is what. But where am I going?
Well, I don't know.
Where are we going? This is time for our whiskey sponsor. Hold on. Give us a short break. Our whiskey sponsor is going to come in here and.
Do you want more wine? Can you open the other bottle of wine? See, this is why I have to do it with Marshall.
I love this. By the way, this is adorable. Nice. Also, they feel like illustrated, like beautifully written.
Oh, do you know Marshall's an artist?
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he is. He won't talk about it, but he is.
Have you been on the podcast?
No. That's how we met.
This?
So, someone referred him to me as a guest on the podcast and suggested that.
And then you fell in love?
Then that's it. Goodbye. And scene.